Hello and welcome to this Raspberry Pi tutorial. In this tutorial we're just going to have a look at the initial config. So in the last video we installed our operating system, so now we've just plugged our SD card into our Raspberry Pi and we've started it up. After an initial wait we've had a black screen with some white text just flowing through. Wouldn't worry too much about that for now, we'll explore that later on. And once that's done you'll end up in an initial config. So let's have a look at some of the options in there. We're not going to explore all of the options, we're just going to go through and just going to run a basic setup. So what I'll do to start off with, anything else we need to add in we'll come back to in a later tutorial. I'm going to use this SD card and this operating system to work through all these tutorials, so we'll keep having the same stuff as we go through. So any changes that I make later on you'll see. So the first option here then is expand the file system. That's a good option because I've used a 4 gig memory card and the operating system's taking up some of that but not all of it. So I can make all of the SD card available for use by the operating system. So I'm going to select that option by pressing enter. It's going to flick away and it's going to come back saying the root partition has been resized and it will be enlarged upon the next reboot. So I'm just going to OK on that one. The next option is to change the user password. So by default the username is Pi and the password is Raspberry. I'm going to leave mine as it stands because sake of tutorials and making it easier to log in, that's fine for me. For security reasons it's best to change it from Raspberry because everyone will know that's the default password, nice and easy to get into. Next option, enable boot to desktop /scratch. Let's press enter and have a look in there. So we've got three options. We can boot to the console, we can boot to the desktop, or we can boot to the programming environment Scratch. I'm going to stay with the console. It's easier to navigate and do what I like, and it's only one command after putting in your username and password to actually get to the desktop, so not really a problem. So I'm going to stay with the console. Now we've got some internalization options, barely say that, number 4, so I'm press enter on there, and we've got 3 separate options in here. We've got the change local, so change our regional settings to match our local area, change the time zone, and change the keyboard layout. So let's press enter on the first option and see what comes up. It does take a little while for that one. Okay, so we've got a huge selection of options in here, and we can scroll down, and as you can see there are tons of them. And keep scrolling through, and hopefully I'll find English GB, and it's already selected the option I want, so I'm just gonna press tab to jump to the bottom options and click on cancel. And then OK. So let's go back in and have a look at the time zone, make sure that's been set up correctly. Okay, so what we need to do is look for Europe, press enter, and then hopefully somewhere in this list there'll be London. That's it, and press enter on London, and now it's updated the time. Okay, so the next options in the list are enable camera. I don't have the Raspberry Pi official camera at the moment, so I'm just going to leave that option alone. Add to Rastrack. This is sort of an online map of all the Raspberry Pis. It's totally up to you if you add that or not. I'm not going to add mine at the moment. Option for overclock, number 7. This one, it will give you a warning as you press enter telling you it may reduce the lifetime of your Raspberry Pi because you're working at a higher level. Totally up to you if you want to do this. I'm going to leave mine as flat for now so I can test the programs that I'm going to write in Python and so on and so forth on the default Raspberry Pi. I want to try not to push it too hard and I want it to last a little bit longer. So I'm going to leave that as none. I'm just going to back out by pressing tab and OK. And then we've got some advanced options. So from the advanced options we've got this Overscan, so if you're having problems with black bars across your screen, or down the sides and top of your screen, you can use this and it may improve the display slightly. Changing the host name, so the host name that's for the Raspberry Pi on the network. Again, it's not something I'm going to worry about right now. That will happen in a tutorial I'm going to do later on. Memory splits, change the amount of memory available. I'm going to leave that as default. SSH, that's a great way of accessing the computer. So I intend to use my Pi just plugged into my router with a power cable, and I'm going to SSH into it from my Mac or PC, depending on what I'm using at the time. So I'm going to make sure that option's enabled. So I'm just going to press enter on that option and make sure enable's chosen even. Press enter and OK on that one. Let's just jump back into advanced options. And yeah, there's nothing else I want to change on there. There's an update tool. I'm not going to worry about that. I'll show you how to do that through the command line later on. So I think I'll leave those options as they stand. And then the last thing we have is this About Raspberry Pi Config. And it just tells you this is a tool that can help you configure your Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to jump down and choose Finish because I'm done with the options in here. And it's going to pop up on my screen saying, would I like to reboot now? And I'm going to say yes, because if you remember, option 1 was expanding the file system, and it said it would do it on the next reboot. So I'm going to select yes on that, let the Raspberry Pi reboot, and hopefully the new file system will take place. I'm going to round up the video here, because the next time I boot up, it's going to boot up into the command line, and it's going to ask me for my username and password, and we'll do that in the next tutorial. Hopefully this has been useful. Thank you for watching.